And today we are going to do another CompTIA A Core 2 exam questions. And like I'm mentioning in all my videos, if you want to pass this exam, because this, for me at least, when I was passing CompTIA A Core 2, it was much harder than doing Core 1. And you must do these practice exam questions or practice tests, as many as you can before real exam. Okay guys, no further ado, let's get into it. And first question is, a user in a regulated environment, for example in healthcare, requests deletion of old patient data that resides in log files. So here we are talking about file data which is stored in log files. What process must you follow to comply and maintain integrity? Delete the log files immediately. Ask management to ignore the request. Copy the logs to an external USB and give to the user. Compress and zip the logs for later manual deletion. Or archive the logs to encrypted storage, then delete the originals. And documenting chain of custody. So how you would have to proceed and what you would have to do if for example you are in a regulated environment, like I mentioned earlier, or this question asks, for example healthcare, and you are requested deletion of old patient data that resides in log files. And the correct answer here would be archive the logs to encrypted storage, so these files can't be compromised, and then delete the originals, documenting the chain of custody. And the explanation is the operational procedures, objectives include the incident response, data retention, chain of custody, regulatory compliance, and acceptable use policy. Because the data is regulated, simply deleting isn't sufficient. You must archive, preserve data securely, document who accessed or moved it. This is a chain of custody, and then delete the original files. And this aligns with the compliance and best practices. And this is what you should know if you are in company deleting some files. And in this case, we are talking about log files. And next question. During a security audit, it's found the service account on various servers use the same weak password. What is the most secure way to remediate this? Following operational best practices. So here we're talking about operational best practices. And answer options are: change the weak password to a stronger one manually on each server. Use PAM system to manage service account credentials and enforce strong passwords. Disable all service accounts and use only user accounts. Use the same strong password for all, but rotate it monthly. Or use an open source password manager installed on each server. So how you would perform in this particular situation. And here the correct answer would be use PAM system to manage service account credentials and enforce strong passwords. And explanation for this is, here we are talking about Core 2 objective, cover operational procedures including identity and access management. This is from exam objectives itself. And a PAM system centralizes control, provides secure credential storage, and enforces password policies. Manual password changing is error prone. Service accounts should not be user accounts. Rotating the same password still has security risks. Open source local password managers may not meet enterprise standards. And next question. A server administrator needs to enforce a disk encryption on multiple Windows 11 devices in the organization. Some devices are modern, some are older without TPM. What's the most flexible policy to enforce encryption across the fleet? Require TPM on all devices or exclude older ones. Use BitLocker with TPM plus PIN on modern devices and BitLocker with password only on older devices. Use only password-based third-party encryption. use EFS for older devices and BitLocker for newer ones, or encrypt only the user profiles on older devices. So which one would be the correct action to perform in this scenario? And here the correct answer is use BitLocker with TPM plus PIN on modern devices and BitLocker with password only on older devices. And Core 2 includes knowledge about encryption and authentication. This is again exam objective, encryption and authentication. Using BitLocker in different modes allows a unified encryption while accommodating hardware differences. This ensures all devices are encrypted without forcing hardware upgrades or compromising security. And next question we have is a user working from home says they keep getting certificate warnings when trying to access the company intranet via their browser. So they are getting certificate warning when they are trying to access the company internet via browser on their computers. The internet uses a self-signed SSL certificate. What is the best course of action? And in this scenario, internet uses self-assigned or self-signed SSL certificate. And what would be the best course or the action in this particular scenario? Tells them to ignore the warnings, add the self-signed certificate to the trusted root store on their machine, replace the certificate with public CA signed certificate, disable certificate checking in the browser, or use HTTP instead of HTTPS. And here the correct answer is add the self-signed certificate to the trusted root store on their machine. As security domain, and here they are again talking about exam objectives of Core 2, guys, which you should also go through if you are preparing for this exam. If you don't know where to get exam objectives, you can get them also on Skilltestpro, I believe. If you go into CompTIA or at the very end, if you go into the Core 2 exams, I believe you can also, actually here somewhere I was searching, if you go into CompTIA A2 practice tests, you can get those exam objectives from the original exam objectives from the CompTIA A plus Core 2, and there you can find all these exam objectives which are required for this exam. And like I mentioned, this exam is for Core 2 is much harder than for Core 1, as in comparison to previous exams which were before 2025. And here, answering to this question, by installing the company's self-signed certificate into the trusted root CA store on the user's device, you remove the warnings while maintaining encryption. Replacing the certificate with a public one is good but more long-term. Disabling certificate checking or using HTTP compromises security. A user's mobile device, which is company owned, is behaving erratically. They suspect a malicious app but cannot pinpoint which. So we have some malicious app on company owned mobile device, but we can't really see or understand which is that compromised device. What steps should the technician take to identify and mitigate risks? Factory reset device immediately. Ask the user to stop using the device, reinstall the operating system from scratch, disable all app installation, or boot into safe mode or equivalent, check installed apps, uninstall suspicious ones, then scan with a mobile antivirus. And here the most logical way would be to boot into safe mode or equivalent and check installed apps, uninstall suspicious ones which you have found, and then scan with a mobile antivirus. And next question. A help desk calls you because a user accidentally spilled coffee on their laptop keyboard. The user removed power but didn't ground themselves before touching internal components. What are the immediate next steps? So, if a user spills coffee on their keyboard, he has removed the power. This means unplugged the particular device. As you can see here, the user removed power but didn't ground themselves before touching internal components. So he didn't do grounding. And what are the immediate next steps you should do as a technician, as I understand? Let the keyboard dry overnight, then reassemble and test. Put the laptop in a sealed bag and send for replacement. Replace the entire keyboard without disassembling. Disconnect the battery. Remove keyboard. Clean with isopropyl alcohol. Or connect power and test USB keyboard to verify damage. So what would be the best action to do in this particular case? And in this particular case, the best action would be to disconnect the battery, remove the keyboard and clean with isopropyl alcohol. According to the safety and operational procedures in Core 2, you must disconnect power battery first, then handle clean components using isopropyl alcohol removes residue. Letting it dry without cleaning risks damage, and grounding is especially important to avoid ESDs, so the immediate next step is to remove power and clean safely. And next question, a user reports their personal laptop used for business has slowed dramatically because of too many browser extensions and open tabs. What professional and operational advice do you give to that particular user? Close all tabs nightly and disable unused extensions. Uninstall and reinstall the browser every month. Use the browser solely for business tasks. Install a RAM optimizing third-party tool. Or use incognito mode for everything. Which one would be the best action in this scenario? And here the best action would be to close all tabs nightly and disable unused extensions, as operational procedures include user best practices and documentation, and this is also exam objective, advising the user to maintain browser hygiene, close unused tabs and disabling non-essential extensions reduces memory load, improves performance and sustainable user-driven solution. Reinstalling the browser monthly or using incognito exclusively is not practical. Third-party RAM tools may not be trusted in business context. A Windows 11 PC is set to receive daily backups using a 3-to-1 backup rule. 3 copies, 2 types, and 1 offsite. This is this particular rule, which you should also know for this particular exam. After a user accidentally deletes an important folder, you restore from the one site backup only to find the backup folder is 2 days old and missing recent changes. What should be your immediate next step? Restore from the offsite backup copy. Perform a full system restore from the on-site copy. Tell the user the latest changes are lost. Convert the backup to a differential backup or reconfigure the backup to run more frequently. What would be the correct answer here? And here the correct answer is to restore from the offsite backup copy, as the 3-to-1 backup rule is explicitly mentioned in the Core 2 objectives. Since the on-site backup is outdated, the offsite copy likely contains more recent version. Restoring from off-site ensures data integrity and uses the established backup strategy properly. After restoring, consider increasing backup frequency, but first recover the most current data. A user complains that after their Windows 11 computer wakes from sleep, their mapped network drives are no longer reachable and show as disconnected. What is likely fix? Increase the sleep time of the PC sleeps less often. Replace the network card. Disable hibernate. Use a log script to remap drives after wake. Lower the Wi-Fi power saving mode. So which one would be the correct answer in this scenario? And here the correct answer is use a logon script to remap drives after wake. The operational procedure objectives include scripting and user automation. A logon or wake script that runs net use to remap drives ensures that mapped paths are re-established after resume, resolving the issue systematically and reliably. A user's workstation automatically connects to public Wi-Fi networks without prompting, leading to security concerns. What should a technician configure to prevent this? Disable Wi-Fi completely. Configure the wireless profile to forget open networks. Use group policy to enforce a connect only to known networks. Change the SSID. Or use a VPN only when connected to public Wi-Fi. And here the correct answer would be use a group policy to enforce a connect only to known networks. According to the operational procedure objectives, this is also in regarding to CompTIA A Plus or Core 2 exam objectives, you should enforce a secure network policies. Group policy allows you to restrict SSID connections so that the workstation only connects to a pre-approved or known networks. Forgetting open networks is local and manual. Disabling Wi-Fi is impractical. Using VPN helps but doesn't stop the connection. Next question. A workstation running Windows 11 is consistently experiencing application crashes and high CPU utilization. The crash logs point to a DLL conflict between two installed apps. What is the best way to resolve this? Use Windows System Restore to roll back to before the conflict. Rename the conflict DLL in the Windows System folder. Use SFC Scan Now to fix system files. Use application virtualization to isolate the apps. Or uninstall both apps and reinstall them in a different order. Which would be the correct answer here? And here the most logical would be to uninstall both apps and reinstall them in a different order. As DLL conflicts often arise because one app installs a different version of a shared library. By uninstalling both and reinstalling in an order that ensures the correct DLL is placed last, you can resolve version mismatch. Application virtualization is valid, long-term fix, but reinstalls is simpler. SFC won't fix third-party DLLs. A user reports that their VPN client on Windows 11 frequently disconnects, and the system logs show TCP port unreachable errors. What is the most likely cause? The VPN server is overloaded. The local firewall is blocking UDP fallback. The VPN protocol is configured incorrectly. The NIC driver is outdated or network interface card driver is outdated. Or the user's ISP, Internet Service Provider, is dropping packets. So which one is the correct answer here? And here the VPN protocol is configured incorrectly. Yes, this is correct answer. And explanations: the security and operational procedure objectives include secure communication on VPN. If the VPN client uses UDP, but the network blocks or drops UDP packets, the connection will break. Reconfiguring the VPN or enabling fallback helps ensure connectivity. Local firewalls and NIC drivers are less likely to specifically cause TCP port unreachable. And next question we have is a desktop in a mixed environment lab, Windows and Linux, uses encrypted LUKS partition for sensitive work. The user reports that after a kernel update, the system fails to mount the LUKS partition at boot. What is likely wrong? And like I was mentioning in some of my previous videos where we were doing different questions, you should know everything on this particular exam about kernels and what are their purposes and what they are doing with Windows and Linux. And if you don't know it, guys, go and study this inside out. What is kernel, how it's launching operating systems, how it's storing, and so on and so forth. And the answer options are: the passphrase changed, the init frame was not updated to include a crypt setup, the BIOS boot mode was changed, the partition table was corrupted, or secure boot is blocking the kernel. Which one would be the correct answer here? And here the correct answer is the init frame was not updated to include crypt setup. And in Linux, when you update the kernel, your inframe's init RAM file system must include crypt setup so that encrypted LUKS partitions can be unlocked at boot. If it wasn't rebuilt, the system won't know how to decrypt the partition, causing mount failure. This aligns with operating system installation and boot troubleshooting objectives of CompTIA A Core 2 exam. A user reports that their macOS computer takes a very long time to start up after a major operating system update. You find during diagnostics the startup disk is nearly full and has many local snapshots. What's the best fix for this? Reboot into recovery mode and disable local snapshots. Turn off Time Machine. Delete all user files to free up space. Reinstall macOS cleanly. Or move user data to an external drive. And here the correct answer would be to reboot into recovery mode and disable local snapshots. As under the operating system domain, knowing how macOS uses snapshots is important. Local snapshots consume storage on the APFS volume. They are especially prevalent when Time Machine is active. Disabling them from recovery via tmutil commands frees up space and speeds startup without removing user data or reinstalling. A user contacts support because their Windows machine fails to validate a license after migrating to a virtual desktop infrastructure, or VDI. They had a retail Windows 11 license. What is the reason? Use volume licensing or VDA. The activation servers are offline, wait and retry. The virtual GPU is incompatible, upgrade graphics. The VDA profile is corrupted, recreate it. TPM is missing, enable virtual TPM. Which would be the correct answer in this question or for this question. And here the best way to resolve it would be use volume licensing or VDA or virtual desktop, as the Core 2 objectives include licensing and virtualization, and retail Windows licenses are often not allowed for virtualization in certain VDA scenarios. Volume licenses or virtual desktop access or VDA licensing is required for proper activation. A laptop used by a field technician stores confidential customer data locally. The company wants to ensure data is wiped if the device is lost or stolen. Which combination meets operational security without major user disruption? Require daily full manual backups. Use BitLocker and configure auto unlock with TPM plus PIN plus configure remote wipe via Intune. Encrypt only specific folders with EFS. Use a BIOS password and set the laptop to wipe after 10 failed logins. Or use a third-party full disk encryption tool instead of BitLocker. Which one would be the correct answer here? And here the correct answer is to use a BitLocker and configure auto unlock with a TPM plus PIN plus configure a remote wipe via Intune. As this option uses full disk encryption, which is BitLocker, with strong authentication, which is TPM plus PIN, and remote wipe via Intune to erase data if lost. It aligns with security operational objectives. In Core 2, EFS is less complete, BIOS password doesn't encrypt data, and third-party tools introduce complexity. This is for company. A user's workstation is part of a domain and uses single sign-on or SSO. They report that occasionally when they change their domain password, they are locked out of network resources. What could be causing this? The Samba share is down, enable it and restart user's workstation. Their cache credentials are not updating properly on their local machine. The domain controller is offline. Their local profile is corrupt. Or the network adapter is old. So which one would be the correct answer here? And the correct answer here is their cached credentials are not updating properly on their local machine. And the Core 2 domain operational procedures involves the credential management. If a domain user changes their password, the local cached credentials used when offline or during login must update. If they don't, the user might attempt to log in with the old or cached credentials and get denied for network resources. And next question, a user complains of slow login on Windows 11. The delay is caused by a group policy script that run during logon. What optimization can a technician implement that reduces the wait time but doesn't remove the needed scripts? Convert logon scripts into scheduled tasks. Disable group policy application on boot. Set the script to run asynchronously. Move the scripts to the user's home directory. Remove unnecessary lines from scripts to make them shorter. So, which one would be the correct answer here? And here's the correct answer, I believe would be set the script to run asynchronously. As Core 2 operational procedures include optimizing user login processes, and setting group policy logon script to run asynchronously means Windows doesn't wait for the script to finish before loading the desktop, reducing perceived login wait while still applying required configuration. And next question, a remote worker's Windows laptop is repeatedly promoting BitLocker recovery after updates. What long-term fix should the technician apply? Disable BitLocker permanently. Suspend BitLocker before applying major Windows updates and re-enable. Reinstall Windows without TPM. Remove the TPM chip. Or use third-party encryption instead. So, which one would be the correct answer here? And here the correct answer would be suspend BitLocker before applying major Windows update and then re-enabling. As Core 2, security objectives include encryption and BitLocker management. Suspending BitLocker during OS or operating system updates allows the system to update the boot configuration without triggering recovery. Or re-enabling after ensures drive remains encrypted, preserving both security and usability. A user reports that Windows 11 updates are failing with 0x800737112 error, as you can see here, indicating a missing or corrupt system file. What steps should the technician take to resolve this? So this error, you should know that this is indicating a missing or corrupt system file. So what the steps should the technician take to resolve this issue? Use DISM to repair the image, then run SFC to fix system files, then retry Windows Update. Perform an in-place upgrade to Windows 10, then back to Windows 11. Reset BIOS settings to default. Delete the Windows Update folder in C, Windows Software Distribution. Disable antivirus and retry update. Which one would be the correct answer here? And here we would use DISM to repair the image, then run SFC to fix system files, then retry Windows Update. And here in explanation, the operating system troubleshooting objectives include using built-in repair tools, DISM or Deployment Image Servicing and Management can fix corruption in the component store. Then SFC or System File Checker repairs system files. This approach is standard for update-related corruption issues. And this is it for this particular CompTIA A+ video for Core 2 exam questions. If you found this video useful, leave a like, share this video, and if you are interested in more videos, go to the channel's homepage where you can find more different practice exams or practice tests for different exams or for CompTIA or for example for CCNA or Cisco or Microsoft. I will be creating many more videos, and see you in the next one.